Welcome to another episode of Political Arena here on S24 television, where we discuss issues that are affecting our policy, governance, and our entire country, Nigeria. Today, we are turning our conversation to young people, what roles young people have, and what are the necessary things that are expecting from young people in ensuring good governance, holding leaders accountable, and doing the needful beside social media activism. Joining me today on this episode of Political Arena is Ambassador Abubakar Abdurazak Dabu, founder of Taraba State Student Rescue Mission, and also youth advocate and also education advocate. Ambassador, welcome to Political Arena here on S24 television.
Thank you, Mr. Traki, for having me.
Ambassador, when we hear the word good governance, what does good governance means?
Good governance, in short, is the presence or is the existence of public interest, where integrity, rule of law, justice, accountability, and effectiveness exist.
Young people sometimes complain about unemployment, insecurity, poor economic infrastructure, education, and furthermore. But why do you think like young people should participate more in ensuring good governance and accountability in the country?
Because if you look at, let's first take example, Nigeria has almost, young people has the highest population in the country. If you take in terms of entrepreneurship, education system, and among other activities. That is why young people need to actively come out to be in the system, because they are more know what is their problem, and they are the only people who can solve their problem. Because if you take example, like other countries, we are almost admitted to attend, to study, and even to have our own tour of tourism and among other things. If you look at young people who drive that country to where it is, let's take among other leaders from other countries. They are young people, despite since from the grassroots they have started leadership and they been found themselves at the old age. That is why it's very important for young people in Nigeria to be actively be part of it.
Okay, so when we say like young people are the major dominant number of Nigerian population, how can young people channel that demographic population into productive effort that will yield a positive result?
It's by civic participation.
How?
By going out to vote, to cast a vote to a credible candidate that they really know that it is have a mindset of the public interest, not just for a personal interest. Secondly, to actively engage in community engagement, which today we are lacking. Young people think just until I be in a political power or any position, I must lead a change, which I said totally wrong. But rather coming out to engage in terms of your community, giving back to community also drive good governance.
Okay, can social media activism actually translate into good governance?
Not entirely agree. I don't entirely agree. But despite the fact social media also contributed, but staying beyond about social media alone also transform a nation. For instance, any person who consumes social media information, it is very, very rarely to meet him with a valid information at all the time. When it comes about accountability, you must need to come out, not just on social media, visit the offices where they're responsible, ask your leaders physically, verbally, as we are now communicating with you, to account them on what they have said yesterday, not just on social media, which today, most of the time, we take it as a criticism alone. But despite the fact, it contributed.
Okay, so how can young people use social media in order to track and monitor government spending?
They can do it because since these leaders are mostly come out on social media, polite what they want. For instance, tell us what they are going to do. We expect them use that social media as whenever they say something, come out and use it and quote and advocate for it in a constructive way, not the way just young people today take it. Just if I'm not in your political A or B, I will just be a negative person. Coming out, use your social media effectiveness. It also yields a good governance and good transformative of nation.
Okay, why is student leadership very important to the development of future leaders?
That is the first root of every nation that built. Education, we all had what is education, mostly says is the backbone of the nation. Since you are a student, you are not just there to study what you are there, but despite to grow up your personal. Along the personal development, there was me, your first priority is leadership, because you can find yourself at everywhere. It's not about political space. You can find yourself as a civil servant. In the process of delivering a good leadership, you also transform a good governance in the system.
Okay. Should civic education be given more priority in our schools?
Yes, it needs to be. And beyond that, we also solicit, based on what I have observed on my experience, either to insert such community projects, developing that student to have in our secondary school and down to universities need to be prioritized, because that is where you initially engineer that zeal of that young student or any young person found himself in academic space, not just
Abubakar, before we call it a day,
all right.
Our dear country, Nigeria, we are approaching a very critical moment ahead of 2027.
Exactly.
So what are your calls to your fellow Nigerians out there?
The first call I'm giving them is that let them come out to participate in the civic election. Civic participation is highly important. Whether you participate, let me put it in this way, whether you participate in a civic election or not, the election must be held. Secondly, the policy of that person, whether you like him or not, must affect you, whether sweet or bitter. That is why it's very important. I call on everybody, as far you have the limited age, as constitutionally stated, come out and cast your vote, and make sure that before you visit your polling unit, ensure that you know each and every political party manifestation.
What are your calls to the leaders?
And I call on the leaders. We all know we have a faith, and despite transforming Nigeria, you also transform your diary of what you're meeting with Almighty Allah. You need to also aware of this. Not just thinking of Nigeria, whether you did wrong or bad. You still meet with your Allah, and doing justice is the highly what I can encourage them. Let them have a transparency whatsoever they are doing.
Thank you so much, Abubakar. It's really a pleasure speaking to you here on S24 Political Arena. And thank you so much for sharing your insight on good governance in our dear country, Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Mr. Traki.
And this is where we draw the curtain of S24 Political Arena. Thank you and bye for now.